I'm probably one of the first people in the world to have electronic cruise control on a Yamaha Tenere 700. Oops. Exploring a little bit too hard today. Quickshifter works very well, just as promised. Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate that. I just have two favors as we get started. One, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. And two, whenever you're shopping for stuff, please use my affiliate links. I really appreciate that. All right, look, we actually have clouds and even some rain. It's been a long, hot summer here and I'm so relieved to finally have a little bit of shade over my head while I'm filming stuff like this. So it's very, very, very nice. But I hope all of you, if it's your riding season, that you've been getting out on some great rides this year. All right, this of course is one of my latest Big Rock Moto project bikes that I make videos with over 6 months or so. This of course is the 2025 Yamaha Tenere 700. Over the past couple of months, I've had a good opportunity to do some really key upgrades and modifications to this machine, and I've been able to get out and do some pretty fun rides on it as well. So here's what we're going to do in this episode today. I'm going to talk you through the upgrades that I've made, how those work, and why I've done those. We're going to go for a ride on the bike so I can talk you through how those upgrades kind of work out in the real world. Then we're going to come back here and we're going to talk about the pros and cons as I see it so far on this 2025 Tenere 700. All right, I want to start by talking about one of my favorite additions to this bike, which is, drumroll, the Viridian electronic cruise control for the Tenere 700. Now, this is only going to work if you have the 2025 T7, because before 2025 it did not have a ride-by-wire throttle system and you could not do this upgrade. Now some other companies had a mechanical cruise control system. I'm not going to get into that right now. I don't really like that and I prefer the electronic cruise. Now you can get that on the 2025 bikes. Now backing up, why doesn't this bike come from the factory from Yamaha with cruise control? I know, I'm with you. I hear you, I agree with you. And the competitors to this bike, the Honda Transalp and the Suzuki V-Strom 800, they don't have cruise control either, despite both of them also having ride-by-wire throttle. So I don't know what it is with these manufacturers doing that. I really can't speak for them, and it is frustrating. But thankfully, we've got companies like Viridian who are coming in the aftermarket. So the Viridian cruise control, what you need to know, it costs around the $400 US mark, give or take. With the pricing, and that could change over time if you're watching this later on. In terms of well, let me back up. So on Viridian Cruise, I have a deal with them. I've got a negotiated a discount for all my audience. So I'll put the link for Viridian below. If you're buying their systems for any motorcycle, and they make a lot of different systems for different bikes, KTM 390s, KTM 690s, they make a Transalp kit, they make a V-Strom kit, they make all sorts of stuff. So check them out, but I have I think it's 12% off discount code, good for anything on their website. So make sure you use my link when you're ordering because it's going to save you quite a bit of money on your system. So do that. Now, in terms of installing it on the bike, so I actually had Brandon help me out do this install because I was really busy at the time. So, but I kind of did it with him and I was there when it was done. And so it took, I would say, maybe a couple hours kind of going slow. You have to disassemble some of the bodywork, take the fairing panels off. You have to lift up and remove the fuel tank. So you've got quite a bit of stuff there that you've got to unplug and disconnect and be careful with stuff. And you've got just a lot of fasteners and things that have to come off. It's not difficult. It's just a little bit time consuming to go ahead and get it installed. But then do your wiring, route your wiring really well, which Brandon did. Thankfully, he's very neat with this stuff. Unlike me, I have no patience. I would just do it quickly and probably not route it very well, but he was very neat. We got that put on. You wired up the switch to the handlebar, get that positioned how you want. It's plug and play into the factory wiring harness. It works great. Speaking of how it works, let's cut right now to a clip of riding this out on the highway. All right, let's talk about how this Viridian Cruise works. So it's fairly simple to use. You've got 3 different buttons. the top button where it says plus, what that does is it either increases your speed, or if the cruise is temporarily turned off, it will resume. It's like a resume button for the previous speed you had set. The middle button is just a cancel button to cancel cruise, and the bottom can either be used to reduce your speed, or it's used to set your initial cruise speed. So right now I'm going to go 62 miles an hour, exactly 100 kilometers an hour, and I'm going to tap that button. Now I let go of the throttle, and I'm probably one of the first people in the world to have electronic cruise control on a Yamaha Tenere 700. It's just, I can't tell you how awesome this is. It's a cool opportunity to be one of the first people to have it, since Veridian sent me their first, like test unit or whatever, and it works very, very well. Now, is it as completely as refined in use as maybe a factory cruise? It's not quite, but it's very close. It's very, very close, and I have no issues with it. So if I want to increase speed now, I can tap up, and I'll increase speed by about 1 to 2 miles an hour, or about 1 to 2 kilometers an hour. Same thing if I tap down, it's going to drop my speed back down again. So you've got that, and then any time if I hit the brake, if I hit the shifter, it's going to cancel the cruise, or if I hit that button right there, cruise is canceled. Now if I want to reset, like I mentioned earlier, I can hit that, and it remembers I was set to 62, and so now it's going to resume, and we're going to be going 62 miles an hour. So now we have hands-free riding on it. No, don't do hands-free. I don't condone that, but it is something that, maybe is done at certain times. So yeah, it's great. Cruise control, 2 thumbs up. All right, let's move on and talk about the Yamaha OEM Quickshifter. So in one of the previous episodes, I was confused about whether this was a up and down Quickshifter. On the 2025 it is. I think in 2024 you could get a one direction Quickshifter, which I thought was really silly. Why would you only want one direction? For 2025 it's both directions. So I bought it directly from Yamaha. It cost around $200, I believe, for the hardware. In terms of getting the Quickshifter installed, it was fairly straightforward. Again, I had Brandon do it with me kind of watching over while I was doing some other stuff. Just changing out some hardware parts, plugging in a wire harness, not too bad. The only tricky part we ran into was getting it to the computer to initialize it in the computer system in the TFT. It took a few times for it to take, because we went out and test rode it. It wasn't working quite right. Then we had to recalibrate it again in the TFT, and then now it's been working solid for the past 3 to 4 weeks, no problem. So it's just that computer initialization seems to be kind of tricky with that. But the Quickshifter works great up and down. It's a great addition to the bike. Let's go take a ride right now and show you how that works. Okay, let's take a little sporty ride on Twisties here, my favorite road, and talk about this Quickshifter situation. So you can see here on the dash, you've got now this little QS thing that lights up, and it's got up and down arrows. They turn yellow when you're allowed to use, when the RPM and everything, and you're in the right gear to be able to use it, which is most of the time, right? So it's kind of cool that it gives you that indication that you're able to do that. All right, see, now it turned yellow. Quickshifter works very well, just as promised. And pretty much all RPMs that you would normally be shifting at. Now for downshifting, I'll show you how that works. Third, second, first. Now let's rip it. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Yeah, I mean, it works perfectly. Really, really like having that. So shifting with the Quickshifter, I mean, yeah, I know I'm going to get some of the old guys in the comments. I don't need that. I'll just use my wrist and blip it. Okay, yeah, you can do that, but riding with the Quickshifter is better because it does it for you, and it makes gear changes smooth and effortless, and you can ride faster and safer and smoother. There's less interruption to the power. It doesn't upset the chassis as much. It's more fun. It's a better ride. I mean, once you get used to riding with the Quickshifter, you don't want to go back. Like, why should I use the clutch to shift? The computer can do a much better job of the situation. Yeah, I really like having that. Now this bike, you know, talking again about the power and everything, it's not gonna set your world on fire with the power, and it doesn't have much top end power, but that's not why people buy this bike. They buy it because it's solid and reliable and robust and does everything pretty well, and it's not too expensive and all of that. Like, it's not the ultimate powerhouse, but also this engine is proven to be one of the most reliable motorcycle engines ever made, and so fine, I'll sacrifice the power. That's fine to give me the reliability, which is what I want on an adventure bike. All right, let's talk about these SW Motec crash bars that I installed. So I've kind of worked with them for years. They're great to work with. They send me stuff when I ask, and I really appreciate that. Although the channel's not sponsored by them. Although I do get free stuff, so if you want to call that sponsorship, I totally understand that. Now, the lower crash bars, so I wanted a crash bar that didn't like wrap around the whole front. I just don't like how those look. There's some companies who do that. I don't know why, I'm just not a fan of that. I just want a kind of a lower piece that would sort of give me some standoff when I fall down off the side fairings, and protect the radiators and kind of protect the engine and some of the equipment down there. And they do that, and they look like a factory setup. They're really strong, they mount very well. The hardware's high quality. They were pretty, I put these on myself. They were very straightforward to do. And they do help out maybe a little bit in terms of the lifting. And overall, I just really like how these work. I don't see the need to like have ones that go really far up. They do add a little bit of weight, of course. Now, there's a lot of people on the T7s who don't run crash bars at all, and they seem to be just fine. So I'm not saying you need them, but I just wanted them, and it doesn't hurt to have the extra protection. Plus you can mount bags on them or highway pegs, things like that. So let's cut to a little clip, and I'll show you kind of the drop and lifting situation now that we have the crash bars on. All right, now I've already had an unplanned actual kind of crash at lower speeds on that side, which I didn't really get on camera until after I crashed. Crash bars seemed to do a good job. I still found the bike difficult to lift. I crunched my brand new camera too, like literally brand new out of the box, so that kind of sucks. But let's see if these crash bars kind of, if they give you any assistance with the lifting, if it doesn't fall quite as far, and kind of how they protect. Overall, I really like what SW Motec did with the mounting and the design. I don't like the ones that come around the front. I just think those are super ugly and unnecessary. So I don't know, maybe they're stronger, but I just thought about that. But let's see. So let's gently lay this bike down here. Oh God, I can already feel how top heavy it is. So let's kind of see. Yeah, I mean, it does contact the crash bar right in there. The bike is still pretty darn flat though, to be honest with you. But I mean, what can you do? People like to criticize my different lifting techniques, or not strong enough, or whatever. I don't know, guys. Like, no matter what I do, somebody has a complaint. There's different ways to lift. There's different, you know, preferences about that, and different pros and cons to different ways. If I just try to lift from here, it seems like I'm really twisting my back. So I'm not really sure what people want me to do, other than try to lift with my legs and protect my back. It seems to be the biggest thing. There's not really like a good, because I've got these bags on here, I'm really struggling to find a good place to grab onto the rear. Oh, holy shit. I don't know, guys. That's still a major effort. One of the most difficult adventure bikes, in my opinion, to lift. I think the crash bars do help. And you can see it does take some of the weight. But man, that's a tough one. I don't know. There's just no way around it. Okay, let's talk about the luggage setup, kind of stuff that I have. So just real quick, the tank bag is Tusk Olympus. It's the large one. It fits the slope of the tank really well, so it makes this flat part top. I'm kind of picky about the contour and how things fit on the bike, and this fits really well. I've got a place here for my gloves. I've got a pocket here. I've got a sunglass holder. It's just convenient. I mean, it's $100 or so. Highly recommend this tank bag. It works great on mini bikes. Going back to the rear, so I got the Tusk rear cargo rack for the top, and I've also got the side soft luggage racks. They're not pannier racks, they're just side luggage. I forget what they call them exactly, but I'll link it below, of course, and there'll be like a PDF or a download. You can get all of the build sheet for this bike. And please do use my affiliate links when you're shopping, of course. But the side racks just give you a standoff for the rackless soft bag. So whether you use a Tusk bag or a Lone Rider or a Rock Moto or a Giant Loop or what does it, Kriega, whatever brand you prefer is fine, but they will give you a standoff from the bodywork, give you some attachment points, and I just like having it. It just gives something to support the luggage. They're affordable, they work well, they kind of give you a little grab handle for your hands as well. So I'm a fan of those. And then the bags that I'm using right now, I change these out depending on what I'm going to do, but these are the Moto Reckless 10 version 2.0. So they've got the new curve harness that's adjustable. I've got it in the wide position. They've got some just cool features to them. They're super strong and bomb proof like you expect from Moscow. They're on the expensive side, of course, but they're going to last you a long time. They're 100% waterproof, which I like. I've got the Trail 16s on the KTM right now, the 390, and those are not fully waterproof. And I kind of have to say I like the full waterproofing of this, just knowing nothing's going to get wet. You could change these out for a Reckless 40, a Reckless 80, Lone Rider ADV bag, the Tusk, what is it called, the Highland and the Excursion. I'll link some options below for more affordable stuff. You get the idea. But once you have kind of a rack setup, then you can put on whatever rackless soft luggage that you like. Talking about some of the protection on the bike, the Tusk skid plate. So they call it the Quiet Glide. It's got like some plastic thing underneath that kind of helps it glide over the rocks and stuff and not make as much noise. It mounts to the factory mounting points. It's strong, it's durable, it's affordable, it looks good, it integrates, like no complaints about that. Only thing I would say is they could improve the hardware. So you get these bolts that have these Allen, what am I trying to say? You know, Allen heads, like a 5mm, and it's so easy to strip out. And in fact, it's my fault, but I was letting my daughter play around in a garage and help me, you know, with the bike. And I gave her a power ratchet, not a pneumatic, but like an electric one. It's really powerful. It's a Milwaukee. And I told her, okay, tighten this bolt. And she just pressed the trigger and didn't stop. And I should have thought of that, but it totally stripped the head out. So now there's a strip bolt here, which I have to go and extract and drill it out and all that. Just be careful, but even using a normal wrench, you could strip out those kind of bolts. You know what I'm talking about if you've used those kind of bolts before. You just have to be super careful. They can be really soft. So I would like to see better hardware on those. I had a Black Dog skid plate recently I put on the KTM that had like really high quality like Torx hardware, and that stuff doesn't strip out. So that's an improvement I would suggest there for Tusk. Also in terms of protection, I went ahead and put on a set of Barkbuster handguards, wraparound handguards with the VPS shields. The thing I like about Barkbuster is they've got a long-standing reputation. They're really strong, but mostly they're a bike-specific kit. That means that it's going to fit perfectly to the bike with the hardware and the bar end weights and all that. It just integrates as it should, like an OEM part, instead of like a universal kit, which sometimes doesn't fit right. You don't have that issue with Barkbuster, so I highly recommend them. They have different shields you can get, whatever. Now, a note on that, they do now have a kit for the 2025, although this is the kit for the 2024 and previous, which I found to fit perfectly. So I don't know what they changed, but if you're getting it for a 2025, make sure you get the latest kit just in case there's something that I'm missing, but it worked perfectly on my bike because when I first got this bike, the 2025 Barkbuster kit was not out yet. So just keep that in mind. For the mirrors, of course, I've got the tried and true double take mirrors. These are the, the Gen 2, the second generation mirrors, much improved over the earlier ones. I've got the long arms on there, although I'm playing around with the shorter arm, the medium arms they have. They have short, medium, and large now. These are the long ones. I like the medium ones. I've got them on the KTM. I'd probably get those, but the long ones work well. I don't like the short ones. I just feel like then I only see my shoulder. But great mirrors, highly recommend that. If you stick with the stock mirrors, okay, you can do that, but when you fall, you're going to break break them, and they don't rotate and shift if you're riding through trees and brush and stuff like that. You can't fold them in. So just kind of a basic upgrade for your adventure bike. Talking about the navigation, so I'm trying a new product, this company called Grit Adventure Tablet. They're out of Utah here in the USA. I liked that being USA based. Of course, I'm sure the tablet's not made in the USA because we don't make things like that in the USA. But in any case, what it is, it's a ruggedized motorcycle specific Android tablet. It's made for motorcycle use. So you put this on, and I'm not going to get into all the details of it because I'm just starting to test it. But if you're familiar with like what runs like the Tenere, DMD's own tablet, there's other ones out there, these sort of big ruggedized tablets. Then you can run, if you want to run, I like DMD2. That's the best motorcycle navigation software out there. DMD2 by far the best. That's what I'm running on this. And it's great. It's a really expensive tablet. I will warn you on that. But let me test it more and report back in a future video, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. And it has a really big battery in it, so you can run it all day without plugging into power. So for me, it's great because I switch between different bikes because I'm always riding a different bike. So I can switch it to another bike if I want. I don't have to worry about wiring in a wiring harness, although it does have USB power, so I can plug it into a USB port, which most new bikes have, and then keep it charged up that way. So far I really like it, but time will tell, but I'll link to that below, so you should check them out. Couple other things I've got on here. I've got a quad lock phone mount, you know, tried and true vibration dampener. You can get all sorts of mounts and different arms and position it however you want. Fully endorse that. And then the Puig windshield spoiler, you've heard me say it 1,000 times in other bike builds. You're probably getting sick of me saying it, but you can adjust the airflow. It reduces the buffeting. It improves the wind protection. It works really well in the T7. This is the clip-on version, and it's the medium size. So highly recommend you check that out. One of the best little things I've done to this bike. And finally, we have to talk about the tires. So initially I was going to get TUS 2-track front and back. And actually I did. I got the TUS 2-track front and back. So I put the front one on. I have no issues with that. It works well. It works good on-road, works good off-road. A little bit stiff to mount, but not too bad. I'm fine with that tire in the front, and it's a money-saving thing versus the other brand, so I'm fine with that. Now, on the rear tire, just to be brutally honest about it, I think the TUS 2-track rear tire is too stiff. When you mount it, it's very, very difficult to mount. And in this case, I didn't want to put it on this bike, even though I had it in the shop, because I'm worried about changing a flat on the trail since this is tube tire. I would have to dismount it from the rim and remount it. I don't know if I can do it on the side of the trail with the little tire irons that I carry like in the pack. So I didn't put it on. I just think it's too stiff of a carcass. It's also kind of got a short sidewall, which I don't like. It actually performs well. I've tested it before. It performs really well. Up there with the Motos, I think, for performance, but the stiffness of it is just too much for me. And I just have a hard time endorsing it because of that, and just being totally honest. So I went with the Motos RAL Z in the back, which is a time-tested, proven tire. Good longevity, great traction on and off-road. Are you going to race the sport bikes, you know, on your local twisty pavement road? No, but it's not bad, and it's fine. It does the job. It's just not the best road tire, but you get great off-road performance. And overall, I think this is a good combo. You could do the Motos Dual Venture front, and maybe I would say the Dual Venture is a little bit better of a tire than the 2-track from TUS, but again, you've got the cost savings you have to factor in. Handling with these tires is actually not bad at all. I didn't sacrifice too much of the pavement handling. I mean, yeah, they feel a little bit more squishy and a little bit more vague, but the grip is there, and I don't feel scared to go through the corners pretty quick. It's not as good as the factory tires, but it's not bad either, and I think it's an acceptable compromise for the great benefits you get in terms of the off-road traction, which is pretty tremendous. Yeah. You can still get a move on. I mean, this thing still has plenty of power. Love this Quickshifter. This really is a do-everything bike, isn't it? Because it's good doing this, it's good on the highway, it's good off-road, it's reliable, it's not too expensive. Now we've got more features with the cruise control we've added and other stuff. Man, this thing is kind of the total package. So let's go take a ride and talk about how this bike is doing. Oh, I also wanted to cover the gear for today's ride. So, Arai XD5 helmet. I've got the Baja S4 jacket and pants. Now, underneath the jacket, I do have the Alpinstars Tech Air 5 Plasma airbag vest. So I've got some of the pads taken out of the Baja jacket to accommodate that. Then I've got the pads included in the pants. And then I've got these new MSR adventure gloves. These are phenomenal for the money. Hot weather adventure glove. Highly recommend checking these out. I've got a Moto Wildcat backpack, which is my go-to backpack. And I've got my Alpinstars Toucan boots, which are kind of a hybrid between an adventure boot and an enduro boot, and are kind of my go-to choice for doing 50-50 rides, 50% street, 50% off-road. And I think that's, and Insta360, of course, for the cameras, Ace Pro 2, and then also filming with the new X5 360 camera as well. So pretty cool setup with the gear. Let's get this thing on the trail. You know, the top heaviness with this bike, it really is a thing. I'm not just saying that, you know, when people criticize me, like, and a lot of people have found this out, but what I will say is you really only notice it at a standstill or going like super low speed, like when you get stuck or fall over. When you're actually riding, it feels great. It's just that those super low speeds are stopped where it just, yeah, you have that kind of top heavy feeling relative to some of the other bikes in the class. Now, one quick thing I wanted to share about the electronics that I've learned on this is that it remembers your traction control preference. So with this button here, you hold down to turn off the rear ABS. This says rear ABS off-road. It also activates and turns off the traction control. But if you go ahead and turn the traction control back on, which you can do right here, then it will remember that, and next time you use that button, it will leave the traction control on. So I thought that was kind of a cool, thoughtful feature that they included, because you can in fact use the traction control on this bike on dirt roads, like relatively flat dirt roads and gravel roads. It actually is okay. Just for actual trail riding, no, it's going to interfere too much. You need to turn it off. I'm going to go back to the Explorer power mode. You just got Sport, which is more aggressive throttle, and Explorer, which is a little bit less aggressive, like of a throttle. The ergonomics for standing on the Tenere are superb. It just feels like such a balanced standing position with where the handlebars are and where the foot pegs are. I can kind of get my weight forward. I also like the relatively flat seat. It makes you, because when you off-road, you need to get weight way more forward than you would think. Most people ride way too far back and overload the rear shock and don't get enough weight into the front tire for traction, so you got to get way up here, way forward on the bike. Also, the windshield is nice and out of the way. I really do feel like the T7 is designed for aggressive off-road riders, people who are pretty experienced and know how to ride off-road, are confident with the heavier bike, and know how to do a proper riding position. It really is well engineered for all that. So I totally understand why, you know, the dirt bike guys all tend to go towards this for their adventure bike. I totally get that. The suspension continues to be extremely impressive. After, you know, testing it more since the last video I released, I'm just extremely impressed with the suspension on this bike. It is a real standout improvement that they've done, and I would not need to do anything to the suspension. Nothing. And that's awesome, because it saves you so much effort and money not having to get expensive aftermarket, you know, custom suspension. Yeah, I do like this flat seat. They really thought about that, but still, you gotta stand up to really get proper riding position. The throttle response of the new throttle by wire is, in my opinion, superb. You can tractor along. This is going to be interesting with this rut. You can tractor along really nice and slow, and just great throttle response. No jerkiness, nothing weird. I really like that. And with the ride modes, of course, you have that. So I think that's a huge win. The throttle by wire is a huge win for this bike. Just such a nice linear power delivery, such an excellent engine for an off-road focused adventure bike. God, the suspension really soaks things up so well. It really does. Go right through these rocks. Yep. Oh yeah, and I forgot. Oops. I forgot we have our skid plate, our new Tusk skid plate as well, so I don't have to worry about. I kind of crunched the factory skid plate on the last one of the last rides. Kind of crunched it, so I was like, okay, I better get a better skid plate on here, and I did. I really enjoy riding this bike, except when I get stuck or fall over or get kind of in a super technical low speed situation. But beyond that, I love this bike. All right, so I've had this bike a little while now. I've got some more time with it. What are the pros and cons as I see it so far? So first, for me, I love the motor on this bike. It's not the most powerful motor in the world, but it is super smooth, super linear delivery. It sounds great, and it's unbelievably reliable and just proven in that regard. And I really like this engine. A small thing that, you know, some people don't bring up is that you see it's got a low front fender on the bike. It looks good. Usually you'd want a high fender for mud clearance and rocks and stuff, but the way that Yamaha designed this is better than the other bikes with low fenders because it has more clearance. It also has a little bit of adjustment in it as well if you look at the bolts. But it's a small touch, but it showed you that they thought about the mud and the rocks and the off-road stuff. I don't like these bikes how they look with a high fender. In fact, I hate it. So I'm really glad that I've got pretty decent clearance there with the low front fender. The suspension on this updated 2025, they took a lot of the components from the World Raid and they put it in the standard bike, and it is, I've already covered this, but it is a night and day improvement. Transforms this bike, in my opinion. Really makes it so much more enjoyable to ride. Yeah, 2 thumbs up on the suspension, and you've got better adjustments now with like the front preload, so you can change your ride height, dial it in for the sand or the twisties or whatever you want to do with your front ride height, changing your rake and trail there really quickly. Yeah, really like it. The overall looks and appearance of the bike, I love the way this bike looks from every angle. That matters to me. Probably matters to most people. The slim feeling of the bike, it feels like a big dirt bike when you're on it, standing up, sitting down, whatever. It's slim feeling, it's athletic feeling. It just, yeah, it has that big dirt bike feel, with some of the competitors don't really have. And finally, I trust it. I trust this bike. I would take it anywhere in the world. I don't worry about it. And man, for an adventure bike, that means a lot. That counts for a lot. What are the downsides? So there's significant downsides, I think, to the T7. I know people are sick of hearing me say it, but it's top heavy. Compared to the competitors, it's top heavy. Yes, it is. It's tall. The seat height's tall. It's a bit difficult to ride if you're a little bit shorter, if you're not quite as strong. I think it favors like big, strong, experienced riders, which is a small percentage of people out there, unfortunately, if we're being real. So I think that's a big downside. The back brake, the rear brake on this bike sucks. Like I can't barely feel, I mash the rear brake and it barely does anything. It feels like rubber. It feels like it's just like not there. I don't know what the deal is with it, but they need to improve the back brake. It's really bad, and a lot of the owners talk about that. The exhaust mount, they've strengthened that, I guess, and mine hasn't bent yet, even though I did crash on that side. But we'll see if it's really better, but they should have probably done something more to address that, but I guess time will tell. The sport mode, so the bike has like a sport mode and a regular mode, which I think they call Explorer. Is it? Or whatever it is. 2 power modes, right? They have the same actual power. People get confused about that. It doesn't give you more horsepower faster. It just changes the way the throttle responds. So the sport throttle response mode is too jerky. In a low RPM, it can feel a little bit on-off. But if you then switch it to the Explorer, the lower throttle response mode, that's what I recommend. That's a very nice mode to ride in, and that's the one I would be in. I do use all the time. I don't use the sport mode. Another downside is, and I would also say this for the Transalp and for the V-Strom, where's our cruise control and where's our tubeless wheels? I mean, I won't say everybody, but most people want that, and it would be nice if they would add that. All right, so what's next with this bike? Well, the only thing really left for me to do is to actually find the time, and all the other projects I have and the bike testing that I do, to actually go out and have some real adventures on this bike and actually do the thing with this bike and kind of see if I'm in love with it or not and how it compares to other stuff. I am shooting the comparison starting tomorrow actually with the V-Strom 800 and the Transalp 750. I've got them all right here in the garage right now, so stay tuned for that. That'll come soon. So we'll be doing that, and yeah, stay tuned for more cool Tenere 700 content. If you have questions, put that down below. If you want to support the channel, there's ways to do that below, and I really appreciate that. Beyond that, thanks for watching. Ride safe. I'll see you out there.